Karen had my Jeep towed from my own driveway at exactly 6 in the morning without warning, without legal authority, and without realizing who she had just declared war against. That same night, when she walked into the emergency HOA meeting and saw me standing in full dress uniform, 3 stars on my shoulders, her confident smile vanished instantly. Her tablet nearly slipped from her fingers as the room fell silent, and every neighbor turned toward me, waiting to see what would happen next. My name is Coby, and I am a lieutenant general in the United States Army with 28 years of command experience. I have led soldiers through 3 combat deployments and now oversee major operations at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. My career demands discipline, calculated patience, and the ability to outthink opponents who underestimate consequences. What it does not require is tolerating petty tyrants hiding behind neighborhood rulebooks and fabricated authority. I live in Pinehurst Commons, a quiet subdivision located 15 minutes from base, convenient for my demanding schedule. The community includes military families, retirees, and civilians working in nearby towns and installations. For 2 years, the Homeowners Association handled basic services efficiently, without unnecessary interference or drama. Then Karen moved into the neighborhood 14 months ago and immediately began reshaping everything. Within weeks, she ran for the HOA board, while most residents ignored the election entirely. She won easily, faced no resistance, and secured the presidency within 3 months. 6 months later, Pinehurst Commons felt less like a neighborhood and more like her personal kingdom. Karen dressed like a corporate executive, wore sharp blazers, and carried her tablet like a badge of power. She patrolled sidewalks, documenting every perceived violation with clinical precision and exaggerated importance. Grass slightly overgrown, mailboxes scratched, decorations lingering past January 2nd, nothing escaped her surveillance. Her greatest obsession, however, centered entirely on vehicles she considered aesthetically offensive. She despised trucks with unit stickers, Jeeps with veteran plates, and anything remotely military in appearance. According to her interpretation, such vehicles violated community standards and disrupted neighborhood visual harmony. Notices were sent to more than a dozen military households, demanding removals, repainting, or concealment. Most families complied quietly to avoid fines, hearings, and unnecessary confrontation with the board. I was not inclined to comply. My vehicle is a 1995 Jeep Wrangler, forest green, slightly worn, but mechanically flawless. The paint has faded from years of sun, and scratches line the doors from trail rides. The soft top is patched in places, but the engine runs smoothly and reliably. I have owned that Jeep since I was a captain 2 decades ago. It followed me through assignments, relocations, and deployments across multiple states and countries. It sits in my driveway every single day without disrupting anyone's life. Karen hated it the moment she noticed it. 3 months after she became president, the first notice appeared under my windshield wiper. It claimed my vehicle failed to meet community standards and must be removed within 14 days. I read it carefully, verified the covenants, then crumpled the paper and discarded it. 2 weeks later, a certified letter labeled Final Warning arrived at my door. It cited Section 7 of the HOA covenants regarding non-compliant vehicles. I reviewed Section 7 personally and found it addressed inoperable cars and commercial trucks. My Jeep was registered, insured, functional, and legally parked on private property. There was no legitimate basis for enforcement or towing under the bylaws. I ignored the second notice deliberately and waited. Karen did not appreciate being ignored. At 0530 on a Tuesday morning, I woke to the growl of a diesel engine outside. Through the window, I saw a flatbed tow truck reversing toward my Jeep. Karen stood nearby in a navy blazer, tablet in hand, flanked by 2 security guards. I stepped outside barefoot, wearing a t-shirt and pants, and asked calmly what was happening. She informed me my vehicle was being towed for non-compliance and unpaid fines. I told her she lacked authority to remove a lawful vehicle from private property. She insisted the board had voted unanimously to authorize removal of violations. The tow operator began securing chains around my Jeep's front axle. I instructed him to stop, but he looked to Karen for confirmation. She nodded firmly and warned me interference would result in additional fines. I could have ended the confrontation immediately by revealing my position. Instead, I chose patience and allowed her to commit fully to her mistake. The Jeep was loaded onto the flatbed as I watched silently. I asked where it was being taken, and was told Riverside impound on Highway 41. The driver explained the fees: $300 towing, $50 per day storage. Karen added that I owed $1,500 in HOA fines as well. She smiled confidently as the truck pulled away with my vehicle. I showered, dressed in full uniform, and drove to base in my wife's sedan. During lunch, I made 3 deliberate phone calls. First, I contacted the HOA management company, requesting all board records from the past year. Second, I called my chief legal advisor and requested formal review of the covenants. Third, I asked my public affairs officer to attend an emergency meeting that evening. I emailed every resident announcing a meeting at 1900 hours in the clubhouse. My signature included my full rank and current command position. I also copied the local news station for transparency. That evening I arrived wearing dress uniform with ribbons displayed across my chest. The room was filled beyond capacity with military families and concerned neighbors. Karen entered with her board members, visibly irritated at the unexpected turnout. She did not recognize me until she finally looked up from her tablet. The moment she saw the 3 stars on my shoulders, her expression collapsed. I introduced myself formally as Lieutenant General Coby, resident of Pinehurst Commons. I stated clearly that my vehicle had been illegally towed that morning. I explained that Section 7 did not apply to functional, privately owned vehicles. I placed documented legal analysis on the table in front of her. I informed the room that 17 military households had received targeted violations. Not a single civilian household had received comparable enforcement notices. Murmurs of anger spread through the crowd as confirmations echoed around the room. I raised my hand and restored order before continuing. I stated that discriminatory enforcement violates federal protections for service members. Karen attempted to claim ignorance of my rank as justification. I responded that my rank was irrelevant. Legality was the only issue. I called for an immediate vote of no confidence in the current board. Every hand in the room rose without hesitation. Even her fellow board members raised their hands reluctantly. I declared the board removed effective immediately. A transitional committee of 5 residents was appointed to oversee operations. I demanded reimbursement of all illegally imposed fines within 72 hours. I warned that failure to comply would result in civil litigation for theft and discrimination. The meeting adjourned with applause and visible relief across the room. The news segment aired that same night detailing the board's overreach. The next morning, I retrieved my Jeep, and the towing company refunded all charges. Karen refunded every fine within 48 hours. 2 weeks later, she listed her house and prepared to leave. Within 60 days, she was gone, and the neighborhood felt peaceful again. The new board revised rules to ensure due process and prevent discriminatory enforcement permanently. My Jeep still sits in my driveway today, scratched, patched, and running perfectly. A reminder that bullies fold quickly when confronted by someone who knows both strategy and the law.